Welcome to Birds of Prey Sports, where we weekly cover Ravens and Orioles news. We're your hosts, TJ and Jared. And in this video, we're going to be doing a pregame of our upcoming matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings. A matchup that's going to be very exciting, very, I would say high powered when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. And, a litmus test in regards to really what type of team we'll have going into, this final stretch of the season. And so to begin, you know, I really, to begin on the defense, I want to start here. Defense, my fault. I feel like the main thing in this game is just make sure that Jettas doesn't take over. And, it's crazy because the Ravens don't really have a lot of history with Justin Jefferson. The last time we played the Vikings was 2021, I believe. I remember me and you watched that game. That was at the M&T Bank Stadium. And, that was a very close game. I think it was like 34-31. It was a very, very close game. The Ravens pulled it out. I think Jettas had a great game. And,
Yeah, it said he has 3 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. If I remember correctly, I think there was the first drive of the game for the Vikings. He had a big play touchdown.
yeah, yeah. His explosive ability, we got to find a way to keep that at bay. We can't let him take over. And at that point, they didn't have Jordan Addison, right? It was just Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
So you have two explosive wide receivers that can take the top of the defense, basically do the same thing, but Justin Jefferson does things 10 times better than any other receiver. But you have to contain that, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I feel like putting Nate Wiggins on that, it's going to be a great test for him. Can he hang, or even Jordan Addison? Can he hang with the top wide receivers of the game? And if so, I feel like, that will show that we deserve to win. We have to game plan good for Justin Jefferson. We also have to game plan good for TJ Hawkinson. I feel like he's kind of one of the unsung heroes of their offense. He's still a top 10 tight end in the league. And just because these past couple of years he hasn't really shined that much like how he did in Detroit, he still can come out of nowhere and give you, 5 catches, 85 yards, and a couple touchdowns. So they have a lot of choices to choose from when it comes to their offense. Very much pick your poison. And they still got guys like Jalen Naylor. He's like their wide receiver 3. Um, it's a lot of guys to look out for. And, not to mention Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, like I mentioned, in our previous video, we were talking about our one over the Dolphins, looking into this matchup. So I feel like the defense has a lot on its hands, and they definitely have to, not break again. They might bend a little bit. They might bend to the extreme, but don't break and allow these big game, yardage, to these guys. So what are your thoughts, when it comes to our defense going against their offense?
I think you nailed it, perfectly, especially when talking about Justin Jefferson. It's going to be a big test for Nate Wiggins this week because, I mean, you can already imagine that he's going to be covering him. That he went up to Pagano this week and said, I want to cover Jefferson. So we know that Nate is very sticky in coverage, but, at the same token, he is a smaller frame of these guys, so he has a chance to get beat pretty frequently. Not I wouldn't say frequently, but pretty, just sometimes he can get beat sometimes, and that kind of was shown versus Roma Dunze, back in the Bears game. But at the end of the day, Nate Wiggins got the last laugh, getting the pick, So this could be a big game for Nate, in my opinion, because I mean Jefferson could have 10 catches, but if Nate can get a pick on him, because I mean we gotta remember JJ McCarthy's back there, and he's not trash or nothing, but he's a rookie. I think that we can fluster him. Possibly if our pass rush gets home. That's always a big question mark with this team. But obviously Draymond Jones. The acquisition. I heard that they're gonna play him inside. I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess we really need bodies inside, so it's not really too bad. But if he can help simulate pressure for us, maybe even if he's good at working stunts or something with Simpson or Roquan or Hamilton or whatever, trying to, just you get pressure on McCarthy, get him flustered, obviously we know McCarthy can get out of the pocket as well. He's shown the capabilities and the ability to run, And I think he had a rushing touchdown last week, and he feels like every time I see him, he has a rushing touchdown. He probably only has like two, but all the times I've seen him like running, and getting first downs or getting touchdowns or whatever. So to keep him in the pocket is going to be important and hopefully bringing them down as well. Don't even get him a chance to get it to these guys, Justin Jefferson or Hawkinson or Jordan Addison. Don't even give him a chance. But I think me and you both know that he's gonna get a chance to get it to him. I mean, with our pass rush, how poor it's been, how poor it is, I think that they're not gonna get to him as much as we'd like. And It's just going to be a big day for Wiggins. It's going to be a big day for Marlon Humphrey as well. I mean, Marlon Humphrey, he's still a good cornerback, but he gets cooked, a little bit more frequently this year than he probably has been the past few seasons. And he can't, be having busting coverages versus Addison or whatever because I mean, he could just bring it for six. I'm not really concerned about Wiggins, but busting coverages, I don't really see if Nate gets confused like that. But Marlowe is one of them, and if Malachi Starks can, provide a good game, for us as well, he came, he had a pretty good game and with it, I won't say run support, but coming up to the line and making tackles last week versus the Dolphins, if he can continue that, but also in the running game, as well, because we can't let Aaron Jones get going. I don't know how much he's going to be playing in the game, if he's going to be playing at all, but we can't let Aaron, if he is going to be playing, we can't let Aaron Jones get going because if that happens, then you're in a world of trouble, because now after that they might open up play action, they might open up just their passing offense after that, after playing closer to the ball now, closer to the line, I mean, so guys like Jefferson and Addison, like we've mentioned 1,000 times already, could eat, and that's just not going to be a good day for our defense. So I'm still not sold on our defense in all seriousness, and I'll kind of get into that later.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of some of the things you said about our pass rush, I want to add in it's under addressed too. Just based off of the free agency, wasn't really addressed by EDC and Harbs, and I don't know what discussions they were having, going into the
Yeah.
pass rush. Like, I guess they just forgot about it. I don't know what's going on there, but we're really gonna have to push guys to do things that have been above their performance level, I would say. We're really going to have to get, the best out of guys like Mike Green. And I believe he can get there. And, also, maybe a guy like CJ Okoye, who hasn't really played football like that. I don't know how you can trust a guy who's never played football before to do things that we need at least a Pro Bowl or all pro level guy to do. But, the Ravens, they like to do it the hard way. So
Yeah, if they're doing that, they need to call me and you up. I mean, shit.
they would have a project up there again. They could have two ones,
Yeah, we're
two of
gonna
them.
have Hardball's lioness up there. You're like, TJ and Jerry, those guys, I know they haven't played football before, but there's something about them I really like, or whatever. They're gonna be there on early downs, or like some bullshit like that.
Yeah, there'll be something about us that he likes until we speak out against him, and then he won't like us anymore.
Right. We're gonna say something. We're not even gonna say something crazy. We'll say like, I didn't really like the game plan today. I felt that it was kind of soft or whatever. And
He's
then
doghouse.
yeah, and all of a sudden they're gonna be asking about us and be like, what happened? Like, and he's gonna say, oh, we just figuring stuff out. He hasn't figured it out special teams wise yet. Or some bullshit like that. The reason why Tez ain't playing now,
Uh,
now he's picking and choosing, with oh okay, you can have Keaton, but you can't have Tez. You can have Tez, you can't have Keaton. And like, why don't you have both of them? Like I'd make Tylen Wallace inactive at this point.
I mean, it makes no sense. And I was going to say, moving to the offense. Speaking of Tez, I would like to see more of him. It's kind of crazy because we've said all this time we want to see more Keaton, and then we get more Keaton, but now we don't get Tez no more.
Yeah,
It
like I
just
don't understand why we can't have both.
yeah, it just is what it is. I mean, that's arguably our future right there. On
Yeah,
the offense, both of those guys. But moving on to the offense, against a very stingy Vikings defense. They always have a stingy defense. They have Brian Flores, one of the best defensive minds in the game. A future Ravens, coaching candidate. Some fans, like to put out there. It's going to be a
Kevin
very tough
O'Connell was
game.
our coaching candidate for us.
Yeah, that's true. But it's going to be a very difficult game, I would say. He schemes up a lot of exotic and unique pressures. When it comes to getting quarterbacks to feel uneasy in that pocket, and just pressured. And he also really understands how to really attack, I would say, what quarterbacks don't do well, in games. And I feel like with Lamar, he's obviously going to try to send a lot of blitzes, really try to make him get that ball out fast, really attack our O line, which, as all of us know, hasn't been that good, So I feel like in this game, we're really going to have to rely on Pat Ricard and the O line to just do enough to get Derrick Henry going. If we can do that, get Derrick Henry to get at least three, I would say just 3.3 yards per carry, right? We can get that going, have some sort of short game. I feel like we can do good on offense and we'll have enough to, put up 21, and keep us, afloat. I feel like that's the game plan. I won't bank on Zay going off in this game because they have Isaiah Rodgers. He's not like the ideal cornerback that comes to mind. When you think of top NFL cornerbacks, but he's been pretty good this year. I mean, he
Yeah.
did get cooked by Devontae Smith and AJ Brown a couple weeks ago. He got Thanksgiving cooked. I'm not just cooked, like Thanksgiving cooked. I'm sorry, but he got destroyed. But I don't see Zay doing that to him in this game. We're not I don't see that being like a high power offensive game like that. We really gotta get the ball going, run the ball with Derrick Henry, establish that play action pass. I think guys like Isaiah Likely and maybe even Mark Andrews are gonna have a big game, And it sucks to say because I don't see Bateman really doing that in this game. I don't see D Hop really getting opportunities like that. I just feel like with the type of game this is going to be, you're going against a great defensive coach like Flores, you're going to have to try to stick to what you do best, your bread and butter, and that's running the ball and play action. So hopefully Munkin understands that. I hope we do get those guys involved, but that's just how I foresee things. So, what is your thoughts on the offense, our offense going against their defense?
Well, first of all, I do want to mention, I kind of joked about it just a few minutes ago, but I'd like to see Tez active just because, I mean, a lot of those, footballs that, AJ and Devontae were getting were deep balls.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts missed, a deep ball to Devontae Smith, but he hit, I think, two other ones to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith later in the game, So um to me, it seems like with the weaknesses of the Vikings defense is with their exotic blitzes and everything, that leaves over the top pretty open, for the most part. And Tez can stretch the field. So I want to see Tez active out there because I think that he's the perfect response if you do want to go deep. Because I'm sorry, Bateman, I don't know what it is with him this year.
he's giving up on the deep ball routes.
Yeah, he gets held a little bit, and then he like kind of complains. I'm like, come on, man, like you gotta fight for it a little bit more, And I'm tired again of seeing DeAndre Hopkins run deep for a route. Like he's not fast. Like
Yeah.
he ain't taking the top over the defense.
Like those
That's
intermediate routes, those mid routes. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and I was gonna actually get to that. Funny enough, like personally, if they're gonna be sending blitzes, great. I'd love to see DeAndre Hopkins in a short game. Personally, him and Likely are the two guys I want to see. With slants or curl route or whatever. Trying to get the short game going. And the intermediate game I think could be for Bateman and Andrews. The deep game obviously for Tez Walker, but really the screen game to me could be Zay Flowers' big thing, in this game. In my opinion, if we come out and we run a screens, we're starting to run screens with Zay, if they're going to be sending blitzes up the middle, like, or if they're sending a zero blitz, great. All right, we'll just throw a screen here, have our guys block, have Likely over there, or have Andrews over there, and have Bateman over there, and then block for Zay Flowers so that he can get 8 9 yards or whatever, or 10 yards, or maybe even the touchdown. I don't know. So personally, if I was monkeying, that's how I would do it. Obviously, I'm not I'm not like some football guru. I could be saying everything wrong right now, but if the way that I see it, I would love to see, like I said, Zay screens, DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Likely in the short routes. The intermediate routes, Andrews and Bateman, and with deep routes, I'd love to see Tez Walker. And like I'm sorry, Tylen, but like I'd want to have him be inactive this game. Just because, well, he's not returning kicks, and he's really only out there to block at points.
Yeah.
So I would just he's a good blocker, but I also think Bateman's a good blocker as a receiver. So I mean, he have Likely and Andrews and Ricard now, back on the team. So maybe they'll view it differently if they want to get the run game going because I'm not entirely sure, like, because the Vikings defense is very athletic. They're not very built. They're very athletic, and that could bode pretty good for Henry, especially if he gets to the second level. But you know, can he get to the second level? Is the point? Is he gonna get stuffed to the line like how he's been a lot of times this year? So I'm very concerned about our offensive line personally. And their ability to hold up in these games. Or in this game in particular, because I mean this is the biggest game probably since the first game of the season, in my opinion. Like we match up pretty good, I think with the Vikings now. We're both getting very healthy. They have a fast flying around defense. They're very athletic. So it's just a good matchup in all seriousness. I really wish that these two teams were had better records. It'd probably be one of the nationally broadcast games, with, maybe Tom Brady on the broadcast or whatever. You know, but I mean, they're both now kind of in a fight for your season mode. I think the Vikings less than us just because they're 4-4, we're 3-5. But it's our offense. I, I'm concerned. Just for the like, I was concerned for our defense. I'm concerned with the offense. And concerned with their ability to hold. I'm not concerned with Lamar in this instance. I think Lamar would tear apart this defense. If this offensive line was considered elite. Given the Bills' offensive line, I think Lamar Jackson has a Jackson 7. So, but with the offensive line we got now, I'm not worried about Lamar. I'm worried about the line. I don't think that they're going to do. Personally, I don't think they're going to do a good job. To hold up these guys. And because we know how Falele looks on blitzes. Like I don't even think he knows what he's looking at. Like he's like the Jameis Winston, a freaking lineman. He's blind. So honestly, I'm like I said, short game with the DeAndre Hopkins. Hopefully, even I would even leak that to intermediate, and that's kind of how I would play this game versus the Vikings.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of having Zay on screens. It really allows him to sort of get in space and use his ability to be shifty and get that extra yards after catch. So I really like that idea a lot. And we just have to see. I can imagine Tyler Wallace, being in the game. Besides Tez, that probably is 100% going to happen. So that's just typical Harb stuff. Not everybody is going to get a chance, and that's why eventually we lose guys and they ball out on other teams.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah, but we can get into those stats.
I bet. All right, so before we get into these stats, I'm going to offer up what do you want to call it? A shout out to my future self because he will now, Friday, Jared will now be reading the injury report, which we don't have up ready now. So take it away, future Jared. Hey everybody, it's Jared from the future here. Like I had mentioned in the previous video or previous clip, but I'm here to deliver the injury report news as we didn't have the full injury report and everyone who was in and who was out. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully it's showing. I think it's showing now. Shout out to Cordero Woodland for making this graphic. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, one of the better Ravens reporters out there. But to move on to the injury report, not waste any time. Marlon Humphrey was a full participant. He showed up for the first time on the injury report on Friday. It was a finger injury, but he should be good to go. He has no injury designation. And Ronnie Stanley showed up on the injury report, but it was due to rest. He was just getting a rest day. He didn't practice on Friday, but he's going to be ready to go for Sunday. The Vikings are a little bit different than us, as Jonathan Allen. Well, not too different, but Jonathan Allen didn't practice due to rest. He was limited on Friday. Christian Darrisaw has a knee injury. He was full on Wednesday. He did not practice on Thursday, but he was full on Friday, and he's good to go for the game. Wolf Fries had a calf injury. He was limited on Wednesday, full both Thursday and Friday. He's good to go. CJ Ham had a hand injury. He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, and he was full on Friday. He's good to go. Javon Hargrave didn't get any practice. Well, he was limited on Friday due to rest. Theo Jackson had a concussion, or has a concussion. He was DNP on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, full on Friday. He's questionable for the game. Aaron Jones with the shoulder and toe injury did not practice on Wednesday. He practiced on Thursday and Friday in limited fashion. He's questionable for the game. Josh Metellus has a foot injury. He's limited on Wednesday, but he was full both Thursday and Friday. He's good to go. Jeff Okuda has a concussion. He didn't practice all week. He's out for the game on Sunday. Josh Oliver has a foot injury. He did not practice all week. He is out for the game on Sunday as well. Jalen Redmond has a shin injury. shin injury. I don't know what I said before. Um, he was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but practiced full on Friday. He's good to go. And Harrison Smith didn't practice on Wednesday. He practiced on Thursday, but he was limited on Friday due to a rest day. He'll be good to go for this game. So, yeah, that'll be all my little recap here, or my little interjection here, and I'll get you guys back to the video. All right, so we're back now in the past. So we went forward and now we're back in the past. Now to read these stats, which are available to us now, and to read the Vikings offensive statistics now. The Vikings score or average 22.8 points per game, which is 18th in the league. They average 291.8 yards per game, which is 26th in the league. They average .397 points per play, which is 16th in the league. They average 5.1 yards per play, which is 23rd in the league. Their third down conversion rate is at 33.33%, which is 28th in the league. Their fourth down conversion percentage is at 62.50%, which is 13th in the league. Their red zone scoring touchdown percentage is at 55.56%, which is 21%. And their touchdowns per game is at 2.4, which is 21st in the league. Excuse me. Their rush play percentage is at 39.65%, which is 25th in the league. They average 4.4 yards per rush, which is 16th in the league. They average 22.8 rushes per game, which is 29th in the league. They average 99.9 rush yards per game, which is 23rd in the league. They average point 0.8 rush touchdowns per game, which is 17th in the league. Their passing statistics, they throw the ball 60.35% of the time, which is 8th in the league. Their completion percentage is at 63.11%, which is 23rd in the league. Their yards per pass is at 7.1, which is 17th in the league. Their passes per game is at 30.5, which is 23rd in the league. Their pass yards per game is at 191.9, which is 26th in the league. Their interception thrown percentage is at 3.69%, which is 30th in the league. And their QB sack percentage is at 11.91%, which is 32nd in the league. So, guys, get some pressure, man.
Yeah, that's going to be the key to the game. Hopefully we can start to generate that. But moving on to the Vikings defense. Opponent points per game is 23.3, which is 20th in the league.
Oh,
Opponent yards per game.
sorry. Sorry
We're
about
good.
that.
Yeah, we're good. Opponent yards per game is 316.8, which is 14th. Opponent points per play is 0.388, which is 19th. Opponent yards per play is 5.3, which is 15th. Let me move your head out the way here.
Hey,
Big hit. Opponent third down
big head.
conversion percentage is 34.95, which is 7th. Opponent fourth down conversion percentage is 72.73. Wow, which is 26th. Opponent red zone scoring touchdown percentage is 50%, which is 5th. And opponent touchdowns per game is 2.6. When it comes to the rushing defense, opponent rush play percentage is 48.64, which is 28th. Opponent yards per rush is 4.2. Wow, which is 16th. Opponent rushes per game is 29.1. Whoa, which is 27th. Opponent rush yards per game is 122.3, which is 20th. And opponent rush touchdowns per game is 0.8, which is 11th. So very surprising rushing statistics for a Brian Flores defense. I can't lie. When it gets to their passing, opponent pass play percentage is 51.36, which is 5th. Opponent completion percentage is 68.16, which is 25th. Opponent yards per pass is 7.7, which is 27th. Opponent passes per game is 27.9, which is 4th. Opponent pass yards per game is 194.5, which is 8th. Opponent interception thrown percentage is 1.35, which is 25th. And the sack percentage is 9.35, which is 6th. So, wow, that sack percentage is really high.
You're not kidding, man. Anyways, to move on, individual player statistics. Had to slow that down so I didn't say that wrong. Um, I'm not gonna read off Carson Wentz stats here. JJ McCarthy is their starting quarterback so far this year. He's 38 for 66, which is good for a 57.6 completion percentage. Um, for 444 yards, he averages 6.7 yards per throw. He averages 148 yards per game. He has 4 touchdowns to 4 picks. He's been sacked 14 times. Jesus Christ, look how many times Wentz has been sacked. Um, and I mean, look at McCarthy. No wonder why he almost died, But anyways, his QBR is at 73. Jordan Mason seems to be their leading back as Aaron Jones has been injured for most of the season, but he has 98 carries for 419 yards, which is good for 4.3 yards per carry. His longest is 24. He has 4 touchdowns and he averages 52.4 yards per game. Aaron Jones Sr. has 27 carries for 139 yards, which is good for 5.1 yards per carry. His longest is 31. He has no touchdowns, and he averages 34.8 yards per game. The receivers, probably one of the best receivers in the game, if not the best. Justin Jefferson has 47 receptions on 72 targets, which is good for that's crazy discrepancy, but which is good for 649 yards. He averaged 13.8 yards per catch. He only has two touchdowns this year. His longest is 50 yards, and averages 81.1 yards per game. Jordan Addison has 23 receptions on 34 targets, which is good for 337 yards, which is good for 15.5 yards per catch. He has two touchdowns this year. His longest is 81, and he averages 71.4 yards per game. TJ Hawkinson, their leading tight end getter, has 29 receptions on 39 targets for 233 yards, which is good for 8 yards per catch. He has two touchdowns. His longest is 14 yards, and he averages 29.1 yards per game. Jalen Naylor is probably the last guy I'm going to read off here. He has 14 receptions for 30 targets, 178 yards, 12.7 yards per catch. He has a touchdown. His longest is 28 yards, and he averages 22.3 yards per game. So,
Yeah, you should do that Justin Jefferson celebration you're doing.
I don't do that.
You do that. But moving on to their defense, Eric Wilson has 57 total tackles. Joshua Metellus has 46 total tackles. That just sounds like a football name, Metellus. Ivan Pace Jr. has 44 total tackles. Byron Murphy Jr. has 39 total tackles. Blake Cashman has 32. Javon Hargrave has 31. Theo Jackson also has 31. Jonathan Allen has 31. Oh, that's an old head trio right there. Dallas Turner has 29. Jonathan Grenard has 29. Isaiah Rogers has 28. Levy Drake Rodriguez has 24. Harrison Smith, wow, he's still playing out
I
there.
was just thinking the same thing, bro.
We better burn him the whole game. I'm sorry. He's like 40 years old at this point. Uh, Harrison Smith has 24 total tackles. Jalen Redmond has 23. And Jeff Okuda. Wow, they have Jeff Okuda. Wow. 40, 14 total tackles. And Tavera Thomas, 13. And Andrew Van Ginkel has 10.
All right, you can read off these sacks.
All right, for the sacks, and I apologize for any background noise you guys hear. Jalen Redmond has four sacks. Who is this guy? How is he the leading sack over Jonathan Grenard? Wow, and Hargrave. No disrespect to Redmond. He has
Yeah,
four
he's
sacks.
gonna have four sacks in this game alone if he's shitting on.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let me shut up now. Eric Wilson has 3.5 sacks. Javon Hargrave has 3. Andrew Van Ginkel has 2. Jonathan Grenard has 2. Wow, that's a funny name, Van Ginkel. Dallas Turner has 1.5. Jonathan Allen has 1.5. Ivan Pace Jr., Levy Drake Rodriguez, Austin Keys, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, and Shaz Chambliss all have 1 sack. And Joshua Metellus has half a sack.
I thought they have more here.
When it comes to interceptions, Joshua Metellus has 2, and Isaiah Rogers has 1. I mean, they got torched by the Chargers last week, so I'm not surprised to see them not get that many interceptions.
All right, well, let's get on to the predictions here. Remember, don't choose the Ravens game, just every other game.
All right, so for the Thursday night game, we're gonna go with the Broncos, home team. For this game, I'm gonna go with the Jags, just because CJ Stroud isn't playing. I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with the Browns.
It's
Uh,
a shit fest.
yeah, honestly, if they didn't have all those trades, I would have picked the Jets. I'm gonna go with the Bills here. Gonna go with the Chargers.
We need to know him.
I want to pick the Falcons, but I don't trust them. I'm gonna pick the Colts. They just got sauce. I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers. I will pick the Giants. I will pick the Panthers. Hawks. I'm gonna pick the Rams. Lions and the Eagles.
I do mine here. Um, So I'm gonna go. What does this mean? Oh, in progress. Yeah, we're filming it during the game. Broncos. I'll go Jags as well. I'm gonna go tie. I have to do one tie at least. I'm gonna do Bills. I'm gonna do Steelers. No, I'm gonna do Falcons. I'm gonna do Pats, Bears, Panthers, Seahawks, Rams. Boom, boom. That's what I'm gonna do. That's mine right there.
Let's say, come on now. You know you like Jalen Hurts. Pick that. Pick the Eagles.
Shut up.
Jalen Hurts is his man, guys. I'm just playing.
Anyways, so remember, we don't have enough time here, but a lot of time. But remember, breakout player, bowl prediction, breakout player, score prediction.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go something different here. I feel like a breakout player would be Keaton Mitchell. I feel like he'll have a lot of nice long runs. I
Okay.
don't know about a touchdown, but just key long runs that'll get us in scoring position. I would say him. Bold prediction: we intercept J.J. McCarthy 2 times, and score prediction: I would say we'll win 24-13. We contain the young rookie.
All right. My breakout player is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's a big game. I think he has 100-yard game for the first time in his Ravens career, and I think he has 2 touchdowns. My that's kind of a bold prediction as well. So I'll say that's also my bold prediction is DeAndre Hopkins does that. But I'm gonna do it again. I think the Ravens lose.
Come on, man.
The Ravens lose 27-30.
At least it's not 63-14 like that one
Well,
day.
Lamar's back, so it's gonna look better, but just, I'm scared of a trap
Well,
game. Anyways, what'd you say
hopefully
again? You said 24-13?
24-13. Yes.
That's the exact score you predicted last week too.
I'm not. I'm not being lazy, guys. I
Yeah,
think
he's lazy. Come on, you know you're lazy. So I'm like,
it has to happen at some point, right? The Ravens always like to put up
I guess
24
yeah.
points.
If you throw shit at the wall, it's gotta stick eventually.
Come on now, that's crazy. I'll go 27 next week. But anyway,
You're gonna forget and go 24-13 again. That's actually a reasonable score versus the Browns, though. I'll say that. But anyways,
I guess the Browns should be like 41-4 or something. But
no, Miles
anyways,
Garrett's gonna. Anyways, just close out the video.
uh, hopefully we get the dub. Hopefully Jared's prediction doesn't happen. We move on to 4-5. But that's all we got for you guys in this video. Just a quick pregame of the upcoming Vikings game. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, comment down below what are your breakout player, bowl predictions, and score predictions. Also, once again, another shout out to Jerry. He's been grinding when it comes to our shorts and when it comes to over our channel, our thumbnails. Make sure you send some love down below for him.
Thank you, bro.
Like this video especially, and if you see our shorts, subscribe. Like those as well.
I don't
Also,
know. It's just funny. Like you see our shorts, like our shorts. Like,
well, you got that one story. All right, but anyways, also follow our social medias, our Instagram, our TikTok, and our Twitter. Make sure you show some love on those as well, and also subscribe to our second channel, Casual Cinema. We having something up there pretty soon. But that's all we got for you guys today. We're Birds of Prey Sports, and we're out.
we're shout.